part of the job did you like the best?
A recent case was a resident that had had a stroke. He was in working age still. He came over from Portugal 20 years ago. He worked for a hotel, lived on site, he was a waiter. He did regain some strength, and then he was moved to Accent. When I first visited him, I wasn't sure he'd be able to live in one of our properties at all. He was moved to a sheltered court. It's for over 55s, so there's somebody on site all the time. They're not carers, but they're on site, so there's always somebody to help out if there was a problem. He was moved in by social services with a bed and a chair. He had no income at all. No, they hadn't sorted out any benefits. It was quite frustrating. Because of his stroke, he was physically disabled. He could walk a little bit, but he'd really struggle. His speech, he had his accent, but at the same time, the stroke had really impacted him in a way that really made it hard for him to speak. You could see that he'd really lost his confidence because a few weeks ago, he was this working man with a big team of people around him that he'd grown to believe his family. And then all of a sudden, it's like he'd been abandoned and had no one else around him. It was such a sad thing to see. When I started working with him, first things, we arranged to get some furniture in his house. We started off with providing food parcels. There was quite a lot of work with sorting out his benefits. He was on employment. He was entitled to employment support allowance. But despite being in the country for 20 years, they had trouble completing their habituance test. It's to prove that you've been in the country and you're entitled to benefits. He'd paid all his taxes here. His employers were being really strange. Even though he'd worked there for 20 years, they wouldn't supply any confirmation that he had. I had all historic wages, but they wanted a statement from him. That when DWP were trying to phone him to ask him the questions that they've got to ask on this mandatory test, because of his stroke, he struggled to pick up the phone, and I think that it might be 8 or 9 times that he'd hang up, and then they'd write to him to say, we've not been able to complete your test, so you're not awarded it. I had to escalate it to a complaint to get the payment in place. I answered the questions on his behalf, but it took a lot of pushing for them to allow me that access, because I wasn't next of kin. I didn't have any court-appointed authority. It was really quite hard. Eventually, when I launched into a complaint, they accepted my statement to say that he lived in one of our properties and he was no longer under the care home, and they backdated him a payment of £1,000 that he was rightly entitled to, but he lived for so long under hardship. The difference as well in him, when I think it lasted about 3 months of the support. In the beginning, I can only really describe him as quite broken. He was like his spirit. He had no pride. He had no money, no food. He was just completely dependent on anyone who would give him the help. But he had no confidence that somebody would give that help to him. By the end of it, to have the money in place, his little flat was furnished. It was looking more like a home. He didn't have to rely on me to bring food parcels to him anymore, and he'd even started to take really small journeys down to the shop to build the strength up in his legs, really slowly. But it's almost like he was like healing in front of my eyes. It's the only way I can describe it. It still makes me quite emotional. It was one of the best outcomes I've had.
Oh, that's lovely, that.
When you first moved to your Accent property, were you hesitant about moving?
No. No, because it was near my daughter. When I was shown the flat, it was empty. It had never been, nobody had lived in it. So I must admit, I really loved it when I first moved in. So, never regret it. I love the flat.
What's your name and where have you come from?
My name's Suzanne Smith and I come from Caranbley in Surrey.
Okay. And what do you do?
Unemployed at the moment.
Okay.
How did you accidentally become an accent tenant?
Back in 1991, I needed to relocate fairly quickly from Manchester to Bradford. And my mum had an accent flat in Bradford. And so I camped down with her a bit, really, because I was working in Bradford and I stayed at my mum's. And then she had the bright idea, short term, to get a slightly bigger flat so I could return home, which I did. But she unexpectedly died right out of the blue. She, you know, she was only 61. And I was lucky to succeed to the tenancy. I was really anxious and unsure because I didn't think I'd be able to take over the tenancy. So on top of losing my mum really unexpectedly, I had the nervousness and hassle and uncertainty of wondering if I'd have to find somewhere to live. So it worked out well in the end. Accent were very supportive, helped me through it all, and it was good. It was a happy ending, really, if there is such a thing. So, Suzanne, tell me a bit about your story, how you got into being an accent tenant.
Basically, we got into it because we were made homeless from our previous landlord, and we were kind of like then living apart, and so I was like sofa surfing, and husband was kind of living out the car and like living at the office, and we basically just got into accent just by applying for applying for a flat, and we got it, and we were like both really happy to be back together again after the hard struggle of being apart.
Yeah. And do you feel a lot more settled now that you've got your flat? Yeah.
We do, yeah, we sold. How did you used to see housing associations, and have your experiences changed your view of them?
Well, I think sometimes there's a bit of a stigma about housing associations, and I think it's not helped by lots of negative telly like Channel 5's Can't Pay Will Take It Away and things like, you know, it's almost as if, you know, it's a sort of second tier, a second class, and they're looked upon as scroungers. But I don't believe that. I think social housing's there for a purpose. I was at a particularly low time when I got my tenancy in 1992, and I suppose you could argue that I should have moved on, but I got settled and I was working hard, and then of course by the time I turned round I was retired. I was coming up to retirement, so I didn't really want to start again. So yeah, I think sometimes social housing gets a bit of a bad name. And I think it's quite unjust and unfair.
Why do you choose to work in housing?
I chose to work in housing because I wanted to do something that I felt made a difference to people, and it's something that is a human need. You know, everybody needs a home, and I want to be part of making sure everybody has a home where they feel safe and happy to build their lives.
So it's quite a satisfying
Absolutely, yeah, very.
job to do.
Yeah.
What has your journey been through the Accent as a company?
Oh, right, quite a long journey, because I've actually, this time next year, I'll have been with Accent 30 years. Yeah. Which I can't quite believe myself, to be honest. It is a long time. Yeah. I've done a massive variety of jobs. I started off as a housing assistant, so, you know, sort of frontline job, dealing with people's queries, and then stayed on the housing management side, so a housing officer, you know, looking after people like yourself who live in our properties, making sure they're repaired. And I got opportunities to progress. I did a couple of secondments to other housing organisations, so got to learn about lots of different housing associations and how they deliver services. But I've always stayed really committed to housing. And as of January, just last month, I got made the Executive Director of Customer Experience. So that's responsible for all our 22,000 homes, making sure the customers that live in them get them well looked after and get the services and support they need when they need it. So
it's job satisfaction, isn't it?
Huge, yeah, massive job. But I've been really lucky to have so many different opportunities. It's never been boring. You know, I've had lots of opportunities for different jobs in my time there, and I've ended up with what I think for me is the perfect job.
That's great.
Can you tell us a bit about where you previously lived and your landlord?
Yes, we lived 27 years on the Stray in Harrogate, facing the Strait, which is a really lovely area. I'd previously been in a bought house, you know, I was buying a detached house, and then due to divorce, a friend said to me, I've bought some apartments, would you like one for the time being? We liked it so much where it was, we stayed 27 years. Wow. But he actually sold them off after 15 years for the money he wanted to invest in other things. And the landlord that came down wasn't anywhere near the same calibre at all. We had rent rises at £50 a month for the first year, the second year, the third year, so it was £50 rent rises all the time. And in the end, we started saying that this wasn't affordable. So I thought he'd put it up to £100 a month instead. I said, well, this is even worse now, but the idea was he wanted obviously rid of us, but we were assured tenants, so we had no intention of going anywhere until we decided we wanted to. You know, we'd done nothing wrong. So I put the rent up to £300 a month. So obviously this was getting ridiculous, so we took him, well, he took us to court to get rid of us. It cost him £2,500 and the court kicked it out. They said we'd done nothing wrong, we're assured tenants, and he had no reason to do this, and these rent rises were unreasonable. So then he tried to take us to a tribunal, which we were glad because we wanted to, you know, speak our corner. Yeah. And the tribunal again said there's no reason why we should be paying this kind of rent, and they were going to come and value the property. By which time we'd been putting feelers out, and Accent House came up, you know, and that was a new build, and we were glad to get away from that situation and more back into an assured tenancy. And we just thought, you know, it was in a village, it was the right side of town for us, and it's been really good so far. Good. Yeah.
Excellent. Before it happened to you, did you realise how easy it could be to be made potentially homeless unexpectedly?
Well, it's an awful feeling, isn't it? Because once that security's gone out of your life, when we took over this friend's property, you know, we had a good relationship. And we never thought anything would happen. He wanted this place for life. And of course, when this unknown landlord stepped in, we never felt comfortable, ever. And our worst nightmare sort of began to appear. You know, it got worse and worse.
How did you used to see housing associations before you started to?
I never really thought about them because I never thought I'd be in a position like it. You know, I mean, life's strange at throwing things at you. This came out of the blue. Everything that was being done to us turned out better in the end. All the worry and all the insecurity seems to have faded away. So
that's fantastic.
And the neighbours so far are turning out to be good, which is always a worry in a new property. So yeah.
Well, I'm sure you're a lovely neighbour to live next to as well.
We try to be. Yeah.
That's it from me.
Yeah, and me. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Go for a drink with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Probably my nan, I'd imagine.
Oh. She passed away?
Yeah, and she was living with us for 5 years before she passed, so we kind of got quite close.
Oh, bless. What is your role within Accent and what does that entail?
So, as the housing officer, we the main role is to maintain the tenancies. So, for example, repairs, issues with neighbours, maintaining, obviously, the whole process from when they moved into the property, getting them signed up, tenancy support referrals. What does a typical day in the life of a housing officer look like?
You could have your diary fully booked out, and then it might just take an ASB case to come in on the morning, and then you can never really plan.
What problems do residents and potential residents tend to have in your area?
Debt's a big problem in our area. Residents that have a change in circumstances regarding their income, they're putting them on universal credit. And obviously that means that our residents get a monthly income to themselves. And it's like, should I pay my rent? Or if they've got issues, then they might spend the money on something else. So that's quite a big issue. Turnover's bad as well in the northeast. We have like hard to let areas. I don't suppose you get much of that in Camberley?
Our properties are really easy to let. In the south, we don't have we don't struggle to let our properties because we have quite a large waiting list. The minute we have a void on one of our properties, we have a large waiting list of people that are waiting to view that property and move in from the local council. Because I think that's the difference from us down in south. For social rent housing, it's like £400, for example, but for the private sector, you're looking at £850, £900. So the rent difference for the same properties in social is completely different, whereas I think up north, you can privately rent for the same price you can get social housing for.
You can.
So that's probably why you struggle and we don't, because people don't want to pay £800–900 when they can pay £400 in social housing.
And in the hard-to-let areas, private landlords aren't even asking for a bond no more. Yeah. What do you do? What makes you love this role?
It's nice when you see genuine families come through. It was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. And like I said, we had street homeless couple. And it actually was quite quick, the turnover. So we had a nomination from the local council, for example, on the Monday. We'd done the home visit and the viewing one on the Wednesday, and they signed up for the property on the Friday. And yeah, literally they couldn't believe how quickly the process happened. And like I said, that now they have got their accommodation, and like I said, they're so grateful for it. Yeah, it like I said, made a big difference in me, because I left work that day feeling that I've achieved something, that I've given something to somebody. And like I said, they were so grateful for it as well.
You sound like a passionate housing officer like me, and a caring person.
It's
not
really
all about just rehousing people, is it? It's about being a caring person as well. And
like I said, changing their lives. And the person that we actually done it for was actually crying on the day she got the keys. So yeah, that feeling when you leave work is really, really good.
What is your name and where have you come from today?
My name's Pete and I've come up from Camberley in Surrey.
My name's Karen and I've travelled up from Broughton near Saltburn by the Sea.
Where have you lived in the past few months?
I've been living in Broughton in an affordable home from Accent Housing.
So where's your husband at the moment, your partner?
Well, he's an Australian citizen and he's retired, and I'm British born, but he had to return to Australia to apply for a spousal visa because of immigration law. So we're really struggling financially to get the money together to get him back so that he can apply for the visa. So he's staying in a male hostel type of situation over there. And I'm here, waiting for him to come back and not knowing if they'll grant him the visa or not, basically.
You've got it a little bit harder than me and Sue had it.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it, when you're trying to keep a relationship together either, and...
No, there's...
a lot of stress on a relationship, a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it was awkward because, like, my partner was sofa surfing. I was living out of my car and my boss was letting me stay at the office at night when it was cold. When we first became homeless, my boss put us up in a hotel for a couple of nights.
What does it mean to be finally under the same roof as your partner?
It means the world.
Be together again.
Yeah.
Place of your own.
Sorry, guys.
Are you okay? Do you want some water or something?
Oh dear. Oh dear. What will it mean to you to be back with your partner when he comes back?
Yeah, the same. It'll mean the world to me. But it's, you know, it's early days for me, really. Yeah. We've only been separated a couple of weeks, so. But yeah, I'm looking forward to him coming home. It's not easy being apart.
Oh, no. Yeah, definitely not.
What got you out of that situation in the end?
It was actually Paul, our housing officer, who got us out of this situation. He was very good. What got you out of that situation?
We were staying in a bed and breakfast, but running out of money. So, yeah. Donna from Accent, I contacted her and we managed to secure the lease there in Broughton.
I hope that your partner's back soon.
So do I.
Because I want to see you feeling the same way as me.
What about you? What is a typical day in the income recovery officer?
It's a really difficult one to explain, to be honest, because people just assume that you're there to evict people, kick them out, you know, just challenging for rent all the time. There's a lot more that goes into it. I mean, by the time it's come to us, obviously it's gone through yourself as a housing officer. You've been through the contact centre, you've done all that sort of work. And majority of the time, people coming to us who don't want to engage, who might be in pretty dire circumstances, personal circumstances, who are at breaking point. Our role is basically, you know, we've got to get in and try and speak to these people and try and get them to open up a little bit. You do get you do get people who just won't engage, and you know, there's a reality to that, you know, when it comes to further action, etc., court action and evictions and stuff. But that's the last thing we want. What we're going out to do is try and engage them, try and find out what the issues are and put support in place where we can. I mean, since I've been doing my role and then gone to the management role, we've changed massively. As you know, working for Accent, we've massively changed. It's now more support with enforcement.
Yeah,
I'd call it. I wouldn't just say we're there to enforce rent collection, enforce debt or anything like that. We are really there to help people. And a lot of the, you know, the better part of our job now is working as closely as we do with housing officers. And you know, getting involved and really finding out, because a lot of people actually start engaging with you once you turn around and say your home's at risk, etc. They get those sort of letters through the door. Once they engage, you can put a lot of support in. Can you tell me your favourite story of when you have provided help or support to a tenant?
I looked at this particular account and there'd been no contact and things. So we'd tried to contact and no contact. So because they were at a certain level, I served a notice of seeking possession. And so I delivered this notice, and this lady contacted me and said, can you come and see me? So I was like, yep, no problem. So I went out to see her, and from somebody just being in rent arrears, which people might think, oh, they're in rent arrears, the whole situation just flipped. She had 2 small children. She was studying over here. She was originally from Morocco, so she had no family. She was fleeing domestic violence. Her ex-partner had tried to, as part of the control, had tried to kill himself in the property, not succeeded. So obviously she was distraught. Her benefits were wrong. She was really low. So I said to her, right, okay, you know, let's just take one thing at a time. So I contacted the local domestic violence in York. and said, can somebody, I asked her if she was happy for me to do that. She said, yeah. So I passed the number on, and I explained so that she didn't have to. I explained everything. And I said, you know, can you contact her? We were doing a thing at Christmas for sort of people in need for hampers. And obviously this lady had 2 small children, so I nominated her within the region to get a hamper. And I put a few things in there myself because she had 2 small boys. But we took it to her and she was just so overwhelmed because she had absolutely nothing. And I remember doing a drop-in centre just in between Christmas and New Year, and she came to me with a Christmas card, and she gave me a Christmas card, and I always remember that felt really special to me.
What's your name and where do you come from?
Well, I'm called Amanda and I come from Baxenden near Accrington. What's your name and where do you come from?
I'm Gemma and I come from Cambridge. What do you do?
I'm a practice nurse in a GP surgery.
Do you enjoy it?
Love it. Absolutely love it.
That's good. Can you tell me what the past few months have been like for you?
What happened was, over 2 months ago, we sadly lost my father, and they were so blissfully happy in the flat that they was in, and then all those memories Mum had, and that loneliness and really isolation. She didn't see people unless we was going to visit. She did feel very insecure, very nervy, didn't go out, and really now to move and get that independence and loving where she is now has really turned her life around and give her that, well, to yearn now to continue living, even though it's a very hard time at the moment.
At what point did you know you were going to be happy and well looked after in your new height?
I knew the point. It's quite upsetting, really, when you hear your mother say, I'm so happy, I love it here. And it still makes me feel very tearful, not for sadness, but for happiness, knowing that she's in a fabulous place now, and she can do things now, and the companionship of the other residents and the activities, but most of all, she's happy and hearing her laugh.
That's good. At least you know that she's not dwelling on what could have been.
She can move forward a little now, have her special memories, but also
start her chapter of life in her new house. Oh, that's good.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
And how did you find with you before? Was it?
Well, it was quite a rough journey. So beginning last year, my mum's dad fell poorly, and then my cousin, in the space of about 2 weeks, found out he had got leukemia. So it was pretty much go from there. My granddad was in and out of hospital, and then my cousin was in for constant treatment for 3 months. Then my granddad passed away while he was in hospital, and then he left his house to my cousin, and then he was home for about 2 weeks, and then back in again because the treatment wasn't working, so he had to go for more in-depth treatment. I house sat for him for 6 months, and then when he was well enough to come home just before Christmas, I had to move into my dad's house, so it was pretty much everything just went all over the place. And then just before Christmas, I got a phone call about viewing my flat, and I just couldn't believe it. Like, everything that I thought was going wrong wasn't going wrong anymore. It just had changed, and the tables had turned, and I viewed my own flat, and I couldn't believe it. No. It was somewhere that my little girl was going to have as a home, and I wasn't treading on anybody's toes. I mean, I'm so grateful for my dad to take me in at such an unexpected time and to have us living there. And then I moved in just after in the new year, and it's been the most amazing 6 weeks.
It's just you can't believe it, can you?
I was so grateful. I couldn't wish it at a better time. Like, it made my Christmas. I mean, everything that everything that was going wrong, and I just was so happy that I was getting my own flat, and I couldn't believe it at first until I got my keys, and I was like, actually, this is mine. This is going to be my home with my baby, and I thought that would never happen. Well, not for a long time anyway. And then within 2 weeks, I viewed it, got the keys, moved in, and I'm so grateful that I've had the help that I've had from my housing officer from day one. It's just been amazing help. If I needed anything, she was at the end of the phone, and I couldn't thank anyone more.
It's
really.
marvellous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
We felt like giggling school kids.
Yeah, it's just one of the things that it just makes a huge difference, like being your own person, and it's certainly brought my daughter out of her shell, and she's just such a bubbly child. I'm so grateful for it. Yeah, it's
You've
amazing.
got that with your little baby, and I've got that with my mum.
Yeah. It's like a new lease of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great.
Okay.
How have those around helped?
Oh, the people, the input, the management, the housing officer, the resident manager, everybody has just been there. Everything's all been organised. Any questions we've had answered or looked into for us. I just cannot believe how really looked after that mum and me as well, being involved as well, involving me. And it's really reassured me now and changed my perspective on housing association. Not worry. I just can't believe it. It's been absolutely brilliant.
That's good.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about
No. And knowing that they're there for any future worries or concerns, mum can just ring up or go downstairs. It's just absolutely brilliant. I'm really, really chuffed.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay.
What does a typical day in the life of a housing officer look like?
Well, one of the reasons I like the job is because every day is different, as you know. So some days I'll be dealing with people who have serious rent arrears, which sounds like a really big problem, but the kind of support Accent puts in, we can make that not a problem for tenants. So that could be a really good, worthwhile day. Another day it could be something totally different. We could be rehoming somebody who's been homeless or somebody who's had a relationship breakdown and thinks that nothing's going to work right for them. We can put all that support in and absolutely change that person's life around. So every day is different and no day is ever typical. It's never the same day, which is why I love doing the job.
Definitely.
Why do you do what you do and what makes you love this role?
I do it because I like helping people. I love giving people a home. I love giving people a roof over their head. I just think if you don't have a home to go home to, how can you live? It must be so difficult for people that don't have a roof over their head. How do they continue life? You know, how do you hold down a job? How do you maintain relationships? How do you maintain your mental health? I think the most rewarding part of my job is giving someone the keys, because that's when they can then begin their life or continue their life. I just think a roof over your head is just the pinnacle, isn't it? Everyone needs a home.
Absolutely agree.
You need somewhere to feel safe. You need somewhere to call home.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. What gives you the most job satisfaction?
I think the most job satisfaction to me is similar to what you just said. I love it. I mean, a lot of my friends are always posting nonsense on Facebook about, oh God, it's the weekend and Monday's coming round and stuff like that. Whereas I look forward to Mondays. Yeah. It's very sad and very geeky, but I really do look forward to it. And many times I'll be driving home at night where I've just done what you've done. I've just signed a tenant up, or a relationship break, or domestic violence, or something where children have been separated from the family, where we put them all back together, and they can't believe, you know, we can furnish properties for people, we can carpet them. I mean, I just signed a bloke up for a house last week who's been homeless. He'd been sleeping in his tent, and he's turned up to the sign up with both his bags with him. And I said, are you moving in today? And he said, yes, I'm moving in right now. This is it. Yeah. He'd no curtains, he'd no cooker, he'd no carpets, he'd no TV, he'd nothing of them essentials that we all consider basics that we just assume people have a lot of the time. And right there and then we assessed the rest of his support needs, and we ordered him carpets there and then. We've got one of our staff has donated a 2-seater leather settee to him and a double bed. Yeah. We've got him cutlery and stuff donated by other members of staff. And he was like, why are you buying us these carpets? Do I have to pay you back for these carpets? And we're like, no. And we rang United Carpets while we were there and arranged the measure up that same day, and they were fitting them the day after, so we only had one night to do any carpets. And as I drove home that night, I thought, he can't believe what's just happened. No. You know, and he's like, wow. You know, they've done all this for me and I don't have to pay for these carpets directly. I'm like, no, you don't. We want you to sustain this tenancy, so we need to help you. Yeah. And if we just walk out and leave you with cold concrete floors, you're going to be on a friend's couch again, sofa surfing, because it's too cold to put your gas on, because it's going to go in 2 minutes because you're freezing all the time. So, you know, although it looks like we're just being mega helpful to you, we're doing it as a business case as well, to support the tenancy and make sure we keep that property lived in, which is what we're about at the end of the day, not just, you know, getting the properties full. We want to help our tenants and support the tenancies.
Tell me something that not a lot of people know about you.
I'm a single mother. I've got learning difficulties and I have 2 children with learning difficulties.
What's your favourite song?
Now you're asking me. Boyzone Words.
Oh, good song. Can you tell me a bit about your life in your old home?
I would say my life in my old home was a bit of a mess. A bit of a struggle, making me unhealthy. I wasn't living well.
And where do you think you'd be now, Kate, if you didn't?
I think if I wasn't with you lot, I think I'd be living on the street by now. You know, being a totally, well, don't know, probably, I don't even know if we still have man now. I'd be totally on the street. You know, rock bottom, I would have thought. So, yeah.
So you're much happier now?
Oh, yeah. I love where I am. I love being near the shops. I'm happy and content. The flat's just what I need, so yeah. So thanks very much.
You're welcome.
If you knew any, what advice would you give to people who came to you in the first place?
The advice that I would give somebody is always open the door. The worst thing that you can do is ignore it. The best thing you can do is speak to us, because we're here to help ultimately. The last thing we wanted to do was evict you, and we could only help you if you opened the door. So you opening the door that day meant that we could get to know you and know your situation and be able to help you. Because the last thing we want you to do is lose your home. We want to keep you in your home. So, and we've got so much support, as you know, that we can offer, and it's just opening the door, letting us in. Your life's changed considerably now, hasn't it?
Much happier, much healthier.
Yeah.
I'm in a nice neighbourhood. I'm handy to town. So, yeah. Give me confidence to go out more now.
Yeah. Did you not have that confidence before?
No. And you know, thanks for your help. I've got my belt and bus pass, so, you know, yeah, I'm a very independent lady.
Your case was quite complex, and you had quite complex needs, and we established that very quickly. And I loved helping you in your case, because I see now how happier you are and how your life has changed so much, and the benefits that you feel from that. All the different applications that we do to help you, we do for a reason, and that's to keep you in your home. So helping you with your debts, helping you to not be evicted, That's what gives me the get up and go, to get out of bed every day and come out and help people like yourself that are struggling. And that's why I love my job, and that's why I work for Accent.